There's a reason Andrew has refused every invitation to cooperate with U.S. authorities about Jeffrey Epstein, and it's not just legal caution. From clandestine escapes out the back of Royal Lodge to avoiding cameras at all costs, Andrew's silence is strategic. It's designed to protect whatever leverage he still has. The palace, meanwhile, is walking on a tightrope, isolating him without igniting retaliation. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. This silence, paired with his refusal to accept confinement or reduce privilege, suggests something deeper, a long-term plan to remain relevant, no matter the cost. Behind closed doors, the fear isn't just about Andrew's past. It's about his potential. His decades inside the palace gave him access to royal secrets, power dynamics, and scandals that could be devastating if revealed. His current resistance isn't simply about where he lives or who cooks his meals. It's about influence, and how far he's willing to go to retain it in a system that no longer wants him. That fear is shaping every careful move the monarchy makes. Just when you thought Prince Andrew had finally faded into the background, his back, dug in at the Royal Lodge and refusing to move. After being stripped of titles, losing royal duties, and facing relentless public scrutiny, you'd think he might take the hint. But no. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is doing exactly the opposite, playing hardball with King Charles, dragging out the palace's worst nightmare, and refusing to go quietly. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. The order was clear: vacate the Royal Lodge. But Andrew is resisting and is making it very complicated. Despite losing all official royal responsibilities, he's allegedly insisting on keeping a full household staff. That's right, cook, housekeeper, secretary, gardeners, even protection personnel. He wants it all, just like nothing ever happened, and is not just clinging to staff. Andrew reportedly demands unrestricted access to the estate grounds, even though he's been shut out of Windsor Castle. In other words, he wants all the perks of being a royal without doing any of the work, or facing the consequences of the scandals that got him here. The palace sees a man stripped of privilege. Andrew sees someone entitled to maintain a lifestyle he believes is his birthright. This isn't about comfort. It's about control, about legacy, about refusing to be erased. After everything, from the Epstein allegations to the disastrous BBC interview that sealed his public downfall, he still expects to live like royalty. And it's this unwillingness to accept the reality of his reduced status that's causing yet another crisis for the crown. But it gets deeper. Beyond the housing standoff and staff demands, Andrew is also pushing for something more long-term: financial security. He reportedly wants guarantees, not just for now, but for the future. Specifically, his concern about what happens when Prince William eventually becomes king. That right there shows just how calculated this resistance is. Andrew doesn't just want to weather this storm. He wants assurances that his funding, protection, and lifestyle will stay intact through the next generational shift. It's not just a standoff. It's a power move, and it's got the palace walking on eggshells. The monarchy, already navigating a new era with King Charles, doesn't want another public scandal exploding into headlines. Andrew's refusal to vacate or cooperate puts them in an impossible situation. Push too hard, and they risk retaliation. Handle it too softly, and it looks like they're enabling him. Either way, the institution takes a hit. Because while Andrew may be officially sidelined, he still has something no one else outside that royal inner circle does: decades of access to the monarchy's most sensitive secrets. That's the real leverage. This isn't just about bedrooms and butlers. It's about what Andrew knows. The quiet fear, whispered behind palace walls, is that if he feels betrayed, he could use that insider knowledge to strike back. And that's what makes him such a delicate threat. A liability that can't be ignored, yet can't be fully confronted. Behind the scenes, the palace is trying to manage the optics. Andrew's movements in and out of the Royal Lodge have been unusually discreet. No public sightings, no press photos, just quiet, shielded exits, carefully designed to avoid more attention. It's like it's being handled, contained, but not quite removed. The goal? Prevent further damage without escalating the tension. But with every headline about his refusal to leave, every report about his ongoing demands, the crisis quietly festers. The monarchy is trying to move on, Andrew's making sure they can't. Even outside the UK, this resistance hasn't gone unnoticed. Andrew's continued refusal to cooperate with U.S. authorities over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein remains unresolved. He still hasn't agreed to interviews, still hasn't provided testimony. That silence isn't just avoidance, it's a shield, one that's further isolating him politically and legally, but also helping him maintain a degree of control over the narrative. Because the second he speaks, the doors open, and no one, not even the palace, can control what spills out. And yet, despite everything, the royal institution continues to manage Andrew's situation with extreme caution. This isn't because they believe he deserves sympathy. It's because they know pushing him too far could trigger consequences far worse than a stubborn house guest. We're talking about a man who was born into privilege, soaked in the inner workings of the monarchy, and now feels cornered by the very family that once protected him. That sense of betrayal? It doesn't go away quietly. It festers. It fuels resistance. And it's what makes Andrew such a unique risk, one the monarchy cannot ignore, even if it desperately wants to. The palace is stuck in a tightrope act. They want to evict him from royal life, but they can't provoke him. They want to move on from scandal, but they can't erase a man who lived in the very heart of the firm for decades. And Andrew, aware of all this, is using it. His demands, his silence, his resistance, it's all part of a strategic posture designed to maintain whatever shreds of influence he has left. Because if he gives up the house, the staff, the access, what's left? He knows that once it's removed, he becomes just another footnote in a very long, very expensive royal crisis. And that is the one thing he refuses to accept. To the public, it looks like entitlement. To the palace, it looks like a warning. And behind the scenes, it looks like a slow-burning royal standoff that no one knows how to end. The broader implications here are huge. This isn't just about Andrew's refusal to step down. It's about the entire monarchy's ability to handle internal dissent. Because if they can't resolve this behind closed doors, what happens when the next royal scandal hits? If a stripped-down monarchy is truly the future, how do they deal with the lingering influence of disgraced members who refuse to go quietly? That's the real crisis. Not just Andrew's refusal, but what it symbolizes. It's the monarchy trying to modernize, while still being chained to its past. It's a royal institution caught between damage control and internal collapse. It's a family trying to cut out the rot without burning down the house. And at the center of it all is Andrew, still inside Royal Lodge, still protected, still defiant, and the royal family still hoping he doesn't do something they can't contain. What do you think? Is Andrew holding the palace hostage, or is the monarchy just too cautious to act? Let us know in the comments. Hit like if you're as stunned by this royal saga as the rest of us, and don't forget to subscribe and share. We've got more scandals, breakdowns, and behind-the-scenes royal chaos coming soon. Because in this institution, nothing ever really ends. It just gets buried under another crisis. Let's be real. This isn't just one disgraced duke digging in his heels. This is a slow-motion implosion of a royal institution trying to move forward while one of its own refuses to let go. Prince Andrew may no longer hold formal power, but his ability to disrupt, delay, and drag the monarchy back into controversy, that's still fully intact. At this point, the standoff at Royal Lodge has gone from awkward to absurd. Andrew's refusal to vacate a 30-room mansion, despite being stripped of all royal duties, isn't just a minor inconvenience. It's a full-blown power play. This is a man clinging to every thread of royal privilege he can get his hands on, even if the crown would prefer he disappear altogether. And his demands? They are not subtle. A full-time staff, personal protection, total access to royal estate grounds. Andrew's basically saying, sure, you took my titles, but I'm still going to live like I haven't read the headlines. He's trying to operate like nothing has changed, as if the Epstein scandal, the public humiliation, and the palace fallout never happened. What's even more unsettling is how strategic it all seems. This isn't a tantrum. This isn't an emotional outburst. It's resistance dressed up as routine. By staying silent, staying put, and continuing to live like royalty, Andrew is forcing the palace into an impossible position. Either let him stay and look weak, or force him out and risk the consequences. Because let's not kid ourselves, there will be consequences. Behind the quiet exterior, Andrew is still sitting on decades of insider information, private meetings, personal feuds, unfiltered royal behavior. He's seen it all from the inside, and if he's feeling bitter, betrayed, or cut off, that makes him dangerous, not to the public, but to the institution that protected him for so long, and now wants him gone. It's no surprise the palace is approaching the whole thing like a bomb disposal unit. Very carefully. One wrong move, and they are dealing with leaks, tell-alls, or worse. The optics of eviction aren't just bad, they are risky, because this isn't just about removing someone from a house. It's about containing someone who has the potential to destabilize everything they are trying to hold together. And Andrew knows it. He knows that as long as he's in Royal Lodge, he still has a foothold in the system. He's not just a disgraced ex-royal. He's a living reminder of what happens when privilege outlasts accountability. He has become a symbol of the monarchy's inability to clean house without setting the whole institution on fire. Now add in the financial dimension. Andrew isn't just refusing to leave quietly. He's reportedly demanding long-term funding. He wants security not just for today, but for the future. Specifically, he's worried about what happens when Prince William takes the throne. And that's telling, because that means Andrew isn't just trying to secure the present. He's trying to lock in his relevance for the next generation, just in case the tide shift even further against him. He wants guarantees, not just protection and privacy, but continued support, continued silence, continued access. That's not entitlement. That's calculation. It also highlights how fragile the monarchy's stability really is. For all the grand ceremonies and public poise, the royal family is still navigating internal landmines like this one. And it raises a fundamental question. How do you discipline someone you can't afford to offend? It's not like Andrew has a loyal public following to fall back on. He's not out doing charity work or making speeches or trying to rebuild his image. He's invisible, intentionally so. The palace want him out of the public eye, but they don't want the noise that comes with pushing him too hard. So they manage him, or try to. He exits the royal lodge in secret, uses hidden routes to avoid the cameras. His presence is felt, but never seen. It's containment disguised as privacy. The monarchy doesn't want to be reminded he's still there, but he is, lurking in the background, still occupying royal space, both literally and symbolically. It's not just bad optics, it's a slow hemorrhage of credibility. Because every day this story drags on, it undermines the idea that the royal family is actually evolving, that it's learning from its past, that it's capable of real reform. Andrew staying at Royal Lodge, fully staffed and fully funded, makes it clear some privileges are harder to strip away than others. And for the public, that's infuriating. They've seen royals step back before. They've seen scandals, exits, and reputation management. But rarely have they seen someone refuse to leave so brazenly, while still clinging to the remnants of a lifestyle the institution supposedly no longer supports. The public doesn't need a press release to see what's going on. They can read between the lines. And the message they are getting? If you're born high enough, you don't fall, you float. Meanwhile, the royal family continues its balancing act, trying to protect the crown's image, avoid triggering Andrew, and quietly phase him out without anyone noticing the mess. It's damage control by omission, but the longer it takes, the more obvious the mess becomes. And the real irony? Andrew was once known for being low profile, the so-called spare, overshadowed by Charles, Will, and even Harry. But now, here's the storm that won't pass, the quiet scandal that never quite goes away. This isn't about headlines anymore. This is about legacy. And Andrew, stripped of his status, cut off from public life, is still desperately trying to control his. From inside Royal Lodge, behind guarded gates, surrounded by staff, he's drawing a line in the sand. He's refusing to be erased. But at what cost? To the monarchy, it's another open wound, another scandal that won't heal. A reminder that discipline and accountability are negotiable if you're connected enough. To Andrew, it's survival. The last stronghold of dignity in a world where it become a cautionary tale. To the public, it's hypocrisy. Proof that consequences don't apply equally, especially not behind palace walls. And for King Charles, it's a test. Not just of leadership, but of his ability to face internal dissent without unraveling the fragile image he's trying to preserve. Because this isn't just a real estate dispute. This is about whether the monarchy can truly sever ties with a member who refuses to fade. Whether it can move forward while one of its own is still stuck in the past. The Royal Lodge isn't just a house. It's a battlefield, a stage, a symbol of everything the monarchy is trying to leave behind, and everything it can't quite let go of. And at the center of it all is Andrew, silent, entitled, calculated, and still holding on. So what's next? Will the palace finally draw the line and risk the fallout? Or will they keep stalling, hoping he'll eventually bow out on his own terms? Whatever the outcome, one thing is clear. This situation isn't just about a prince who refuses to leave his mansion. It's about a monarchy still trapped by the weight of its own history, trying to modernize, while dragging the past behind it like a gilded anchor. Andrew may be invisible, but is not gone. And as long as it's still in that house, making demands, dodging accountability, and resisting change, the royal family's reckoning isn't over. It's just waiting for the next move. And here's where things go from awkward to absolutely unsustainable. Because this isn't just a PR headache anymore. It's a reputational time bomb. Every week that Prince Andrew remains in the Royal Lodge under these conditions, the monarchy's message about accountability gets weaker. It's like watching someone trying to polish silver while the house behind them is on fire. The firm wants to project stability, modern values, and responsibility. But how do you sell that when one of your most disgraced members is still living in luxury, supported by royal infrastructure, and refusing to budge? Let's call it what it is, a soft rebellion. Andrew isn't raising his voice. He's not holding press conferences or threatening lawsuits. But he is resisting, with calculated silence and quiet force. He's staying in place. He's making demands. He's asking for lifetime guarantees, all without saying a word publicly. And in doing so, he's forcing the palace into a perpetual defensive crouch. Because here's the part no one at Buckingham Palace wants to admit out loud. Andrew has the power to embarrass them, not just by existing, but by what he knows. This is a man who's been in the inner royal circle for decades. He knows the systems, the relationships, the family secrets, the cover-ups, the tensions. And if he ever reaches a breaking point, he could throw the whole thing into disarray. That's why this isn't just about removing him from a residence. It's about diffusing a volatile figure. The monarchy isn't just dealing with scandal fallout from 2019. They are managing the risk of what happens if Andrew stops playing along. Because let's be honest, as much as the palace want him gone, they need him to go quietly, with dignity, without headlines. But Andrew seems to know that the louder they whisper about his departure, the stronger his hand becomes. And make no mistake, this hand is very deliberate. He's not just digging his heels in out of stubbornness. This is about leverage, about extracting as much long-term security as possible before the walls close in. That's why his concerns about Prince William's future reign are so telling. Andrew isn't just worried about the current king's decisions. He's looking ahead, trying to guarantee that even when the next generation takes over, he's still protected. That shows you just how far ahead he's thinking. He doesn't see himself as a temporary issue. He's planning for permanence. And it's driving the palace into a corner. Because at this point, any attempt to forcibly remove him will make noise. And noise is exactly what they can't afford. Especially from someone whose silence is tied to insider access. That's the other unspoken dynamic here. Andrew's silence is a commodity. The fewer questions he answers, the more valuable that silence becomes. It's a shield. It's leverage. And it's a way to maintain relevance, even in exile. Because as long as he refuses to speak, there's always a possibility that he might. And that possibility is terrifying for an institution built on discretion and secrecy. Now, let's talk about the optics of his invisibility. His recent movements from the Royal Lodge have reportedly been shrouded in secrecy. His exiting through discreet routes, hidden from public view, slipping past cameras like a royal ghost. Not because he's shy, but because the palace needs to keep him hidden. They can't afford a single photo of him living lavishly while dodging accountability. That image alone would reignite the outrage. So they move him in silence. They make no statements. They avoid confrontation. And that silence, it's deafening, because it tells the public everything they need to know. that Andrew is still very much present, that is being carefully handled, that this isn't over, it's just being contained, poorly, and containment only works for so long. Eventually, something has to give. The public is watching, the pressure is building, the media is circling, and behind the palace gates, they know they can't stall forever. But they also know that forcing Andrew out too aggressively risks setting off the very crisis they've been trying to avoid since 2019. So here we are, a royal family trying to modernize, while one of its own holds the process hostage. A king trying to slim down the monarchy, while his brother refuses to give up royal luxury. A palace trying to quietly phase out scandal, while the embodiment of that scandal refuses to disappear. It's not just about a man in a house. It's about an institution being dragged backward by someone who refuses to face forward. Andrew's refusal to step down, vacate, or scale back only reinforces a perception that the monarchy can't fully break with the past. That accountability only goes so far. That if you're born high enough, there's always a soft landing, no matter how badly you fall. And that message, intentional or not, undercuts everything the Crown claims to be working toward. Because how do you convince the public that the monarchy is evolving when one of its most disgraced figures is still getting the full service treatment? How do you talk about transparency when a member who won't cooperate with international investigations still gets royal security and servants? How do you defend the cost of the monarchy when one of its former working members is living in a sprawling mansion on land held by the Crown estate, with no public duties and a trail of scandal behind him? It doesn't add up. And people are noticing. The public sees the double standard, the silence, the hesitancy, the calculated avoidance of confrontation. And they're asking the obvious question, why is he still being protected? Why hasn't the door finally closed? The answer, of course, lies in the power Andrew still holds. Not through influence, but through proximity, through access, through the threat of speaking out. And that's what makes this different from every other royal crisis. Because this one isn't about outside pressure. It's about internal weakness. A system that wants to move forward but can't. A monarchy trying to assert discipline while simultaneously rewarding silence. A royal family so afraid of what one man knows that they are letting him write his own terms. And if they are not careful, they are going to lose control of the story entirely. Because the longer this drags out, the more it becomes clear. This isn't just a lingering issue. This is a full-blown failure to act. And Prince Andrew? He's not backing down. He's not packing up. And is definitely not letting go. So what happens now? Do they finally show him the door and risk everything that might come with that? Or do they keep playing this quiet, losing game, hoping he'll eventually give up on his own? The truth is, neither option looks good. But doing nothing, that might be the most damaging path of all. Let us know what you think. Has the time come for the palace to pull the plug on Andrew's royal perks once and for all? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if you're following this saga. And don't forget to subscribe and share if you want more deep dives into the slow-motion disasters playing out behind closed palace doors. Because this drama, it's not over. It's just been politely postponed.